Alright, so this is a video that I had originally planned on uploading since about a week or two. It's part of my 2025 silly season series of videos that I got going. But all of this silly season news coming out, it caused me to have to push back this video so I could like rewrite and re-record a new script to account for the news that just came out, because it seems like some new report comes out every day. But here we are. Since the last silly season video, two really big pieces of news came out that have shaken the silly season landscape completely. And let's start with the obvious one first. Martin Truex Jr. has officially announced that he is retiring from Cup racing. Of course, when I say retiring, I mean he won't be running full-time anymore. He could still do some part-time starts. Denny Hamlin came out and said it himself. He will have a 2311 car ready for Truex if he ever wanted to do some part-time starts. And first of all, before we dive deep into this whole 19 car situation, I want to first reflect on the career of Martin Truex, because back when I started watching NASCAR in 2004, I remember this guy just straight up tearing it up in the Busch Series. As a matter of fact, he was the last Busch Series regular to win a title until 2011, when NASCAR implemented the you can compete for points in only one of the three National Touring Series rule. Then he moved up to DEI in 2006, which, looking back now that we know how that situation unraveled at the time, that was just terrible timing, and Truex was caught in the middle of all that. He did find success though, picking up his first career win along the way. But after DEI fell apart in 2008, he started jumping around from team to team. First he went to Ganassi as part of that merger with DEI, but he could never get it going there. Then he went to Michael Waltrip Racing, where again he started off slow, but he got better as the years went on, at least until Spingate put an end to that. He finally landed at Furniture Road Racing, where at first it looked like his career, like he was just done. But then he turned it around in 2015. Of course, the addition of Cole Pern played a huge role in that. And once he got actual support from Toyota in the form of JGR, an alliance with JGR, he finally broke out and became the version of Truex that we have grown accustomed to seeing in almost for the past like 8 years or so. He even won a title in 2017, which is one of the most special title runs I have ever witnessed. And this is coming from a Kyle Busch fan like myself. I genuinely enjoyed watching Truex's 2017 title run, not only because he did it with a smaller team, but he was far and away the best driver that season. Like, no matter which points format you replay that season with, I'm pretty sure Truex would have come out on top every single time on every single points format in NASCAR history. His career was one of perseverance, resilience, beating the odds, and finding success even at an older age, when it looks like you're supposed to be past your prime. Even if he's not a flashy personality, almost every NASCAR season I have watched has had Truex somewhere written on it. And I have just grown so accustomed to him just being there that now that he announced he's retiring, it just hit me. It's going to be so weird not having him around. So, congrats on having an amazing career though. 30 plus career wins. I think they're like 34 right now. He also has a title, 3 Crown Jewel wins, one of those being the 2016 Coca-Cola 600, aka the greatest single race masterclass in NASCAR history. His career trajectory and stats, they are very similar to another Hall of Famer, actually, Dale Jarrett, another driver who started his career out slow, but once he found the right team in Robert Yates Racing, he finally got going. Maybe that's why I like Truex so much, because Dale Jarrett was the first driver that I ever rooted for when I first started watching NASCAR back in 2004. I didn't even realize that Truex and Dale Jarrett, they had very similar careers until just a couple years ago too, which is actually crazy. But anyways, with Truex out of the 19, that leaves a pretty big opening in the garage. This is by far the best ride available this silly season, and honestly, yeah, I don't think there's gonna be a ride better than the 19 car in at least this silly season. And if you recall from my previous silly season video where I discussed Corey Haim's potential future, I speculated that if Truex were to retire this year, JGR could move John Hunter Nemechek up to the 19 from Legacy Motor Club, so Corey Heim could take over the 42 car. At the time, I thought this move made sense because Corey Heim was under contract with Legacy Motor Club as their reserve cup driver, which is why when Eric Jones got injured for a couple races, Heim was the one who got the call up. And John Hunter, he had been linked to the 19 car for the past few years, so I thought this made too much sense. So as you guys now know, that didn't come to fruition. You can thank Christopher Bell for that. But aside from John Hunter, there were other drivers who people were speculating could replace Truex in the 19. Eric Jones and Kyle Busch were considered. You know, Eric Jones because of his relationship with Toyota. Also the fact that driving a satellite team in JGR could potentially facilitate a reunion of sorts. Also the fact that he is John Hunter Nemechek's teammate and he is a more talented driver than John Hunter. You know, the logic was, why would you go with John Hunter Nemechek when you could have Eric Jones? Well, he already drove for JGR and it didn't end really well for him, so I would definitely not want Eric Jones back. Kyle Busch is kind of on the same boat. Let's be honest, he's having a terrible season, and those JGR reunion rumors, they came from Kyle Busch fans taking a quote that he said in an interview regarding his future with RCR and how 2025 could be like a contract year for him and running with it. Kyle Busch fans, they just ran with it, saying that, you know, Kyle Busch misses Joe Gibbs Racing, a reunion could be possible. And while I'm not going to deny that Kyle, he definitely misses those days where he was winning races and competing for championships, let's face it, he is not returning to JGR. That part of his career is done. And neither is Eric Jones, okay? When you end a chapter at Joe Gibbs Racing, you're probably, chances are like 9 times out of 10, you're not going back there. You're not going back there, trust me. Other drivers that were considered were Noah Gragson and Corey Heim. Noah Gragson because he's also sponsored by Bass Pro Shops, and Corey Heim because of his status as, you know, Toyota's top prospect right now. Both of those rumors were shut down pretty quickly, in large part because of both of these drivers. They've had beef with Ty Gibbs, which is a stupid reason in my opinion. Like, Ty Gibbs may be the coach's grandson, but he doesn't run the team, nor does he take any part in the decision making. He's just a driver, okay? Coach Joe is still the head of that team. He still makes the decisions there. Ty Gibbs is he's just hired to drive the car, okay? And besides, if Noah Gragson, he somehow ended with Toyota, his most suitable landing spot would have been 2311's third team. But now, considering that Jones and John Hunter, they will be staying put for next year, chances are that Corey Heim will more than likely take over that third 2311 ride, because look at him. He's more ready to move up. He's more than ready to move up from the Truck Series. And it doesn't look like Sam Hunt Racing has announced any full-time Xfinity plans for him yet, so my educated guess is that Corey Heim will be 2311's third driver for 2025. And speaking of 2311, Corey Heim is going to be making another Cup Star in Nashville for them this weekend, so go figure. So with none of those guys going to the 19, what gives? Who did JGR sign to replace Truex? Well, again, thanks to Christopher Bell for leaking this out 4 days in advance before the actual announcement took place. JGR went out and stole Chase Briscoe away from Ford. Yes, I said stole, because there is no way in hell Ford let him walk away after they came out and said he is our top priority. Like, how could they even let this happen? I thought Chase Briscoe to the Wood Brothers, the 21 car, was a done deal. Well, according to some reports, it looks like the Wood Brothers are more interested in Justin Haley now. And honestly, if I was Justin Haley, I would just stay put at Rick Ware Racing, because he is doing some great things with those guys, but only if they want to keep him long term. If Rick Ware lowballs him with like a short term 1 year deal, then yeah, maybe Haley should go to the 21. But if that's the case and Haley is really considering passing up the 21 right to stay in the 51, Rick Ware Racing, they should sign him long term immediately. In just the first half of this year, he has already become their best driver in team history. solely of what he has done out of the first half of this year, he's already become their best driver in team history by far. But yeah, Ford, they just lost another quality driver. They just keep taking L's this year between the Briscoe situation, also them being winless in Trucks and Xfinity, and we're already halfway through the year. Not to mention, one of their bigger teams in Stewart-Haas Racing is shutting down. Or are they? And this leads up to the other big news I was talking about, because you guys remember that fourth SHR charter, the one that several teams were entering a bidding war for. RCR was interested in that charter. RFK, for a moment they were interested, but then they backed out eventually. Also, Legacy Motor Club was reported to be interested. Well, as it turns out, no one is getting that fourth charter, because at the last minute, Stewart-Haas decided that he will keep Stewart-Haas Racing alive, except it's no longer going to be called Stewart-Haas Racing. The team will now be called the Haas Factory Team, and it will be a single car team in Cup with that charter, and a 2-car operation in Xfinity. Yep, you heard that right. Their Xfinity program will stay afloat. And in case there was any doubt, yes, they will still be running with Ford. Thank goodness, because having Ryan Sieg as your best Ford driver in Xfinity, that would have been atrocious considering they're a top 15 team at best. Again, no shade to Ryan Sieg, but if Ryan Sieg is your best driver in for Ford in Xfinity, yeah, that's not that you might as well call 2025 a wash. This also means that the 3 charters that will be sold, they will most likely be the ones belonging to Tony Stewart, the 4, the 10, and the 14, as those are the 3 entries that Tony Stewart owns in SHR. And then Stewart-Haas owned the 4th entry, the 41, which will more than likely be the 4th charter that he will keep. Also, don't you guys find this ironic? Because when all this talk about Stewart-Haas Racing downsizing, when all of those rumors came up, almost everyone, myself included, thought that the 41 car would be on the chopping block. Well, would you look at that? 3 of the 4 charters have been sold, and Tony Stewart will no longer be involved with the team. The 1 car Tony Stewart did not own on that SHR operation was the 41, which essentially means that Stewart-Haas pulled the Uno reverse car on all of us, and he kept the 41 charter while selling the other 3 instead of the other way around. That's crazy. So the question now becomes, who will the drivers be? Because remember, this move opens up a Cup ride and 2 Xfinity rides. And if you ask me, as far as their Cup Series team goes, there's a clear frontrunner. Cole Custer. He has been with Stewart-Haas with Stewart-Haas, more specifically, since his Truck Series days. He's moving up through the ranks. He's not just a Ford driver. He is a Haas driver. If you remember, Haas, they started out as a Chevrolet, as a Chevy team. Even when Tony Stewart came along, they stayed a Chevrolet team. That's part of the main reason why Tony Stewart went there, is because he was not comfortable with running Toyotas after Joe Gibbs Racing made the switch. So then, while Stewart was, running the team, and Stewart-Haas Racing, they were just expanding to 3 cars and then 4-car operations, they had Cole Custer moving up through the ranks. And Cole Custer, he was a Chevy driver back then. He was running in the K&N, the Truck Series. When Stewart-Haas Racing switched to Ford, Cole Custer switched to Ford with them. So he is not a Ford driver. He is a Ford driver, but more than a Ford driver, he is a Stewart-Haas driver. He is Stewart-Haas's driver. He's moved up through the ranks with Stewart-Haas's team. Plus, after winning the Xfinity title last year, he's more than earned a second chance in the Cup Series. Not to mention, his father, Joe Custer, he will still be involved with Stewart-Haas's operation. So, no doubt he will push for his son to be their Cup driver for the future. As for their Xfinity program, that's a little bit more up in the air. But I do believe Riley Herbst will be back. assuming he doesn't find a better opportunity elsewhere. But in my opinion, if it's not a full-time Cup ride with Rick Ware Racing, I don't think Riley Herbst leaves. And even then, that's pretty unlikely. The most I can see for Riley Herbst on the Cup side is like a continuing to be a part-time driver for Rick Ware Racing. And that is assuming Justin Haley stays with the team, which I think he will. Because Rick Ware he must and he will do anything to keep him. Of course, if Justin Haley wants to stay, which I think he will. But even in the off chance that Justin Haley leaves, they still have Casgrala as their backup plan. So no, Riley Herbst as their full-time Cup driver, that's very unlikely. As for their second driver, because remember, they have 2 Xfinity cars, this is where things get a little more tricky. But as of right now, and call me crazy, but I honestly feel like Ryan Preece could fill that void. Again, you may call me crazy, and yes, Ryan Preece was only in the 41 all this time because of Tony Stewart and Kevin Harvick's influence, but recall what I said in one of my previous silly season videos. I said that Ryan Preece's future was the most uncertain out of all of the Stewart-Haas Racing free agents. And if he doesn't land with Front Row Motorsports, it was back to part-time racing for him at Rick Ware or some other Xfinity or truck team, unless there's a full-time opening for him. That second Xfinity car, the 00 that Cole Custer will most likely be vacating, that second Xfinity car might just be that open seat I was talking about, especially if Ryan Preece gets very desperate and he cannot find any full-time opportunities. Maybe he could just take that second Haas Xfinity car. And again, this move only makes sense if Cole Custer moves into the Cup car, which I'm 95% sure he will, and if Ryan Preece doesn't sign with Front Row Motorsports to drive one of their now 3 Cup cars, which at this point I don't think he will. Okay, I'm pretty sure Josh Berry, maybe Noah Gragson could fill that void. I mean, Preece is definitely a candidate, but over Berry and Gragson, Berry right now is running really well in Cup. He's had like a past few couple of weeks pretty good, and Gragson he's still been a surprising driver for Stewart-Haas Racing, still doing some good stuff over there. So yeah, Ryan Preece would still be the odd man out, and if you ask me, I think he will be back in Xfinity. And besides, who does he have to compete with if it comes down to him getting that second Xfinity car at Haas? Who would he have to compete with? Haley Deegan? Come on. Preece is an upgrade over Haley Deegan in all aspects. But yeah, those are my latest thoughts on silly season. I swear, if some big news report comes out after I record this video, I'm gonna be so upset. But anyways, I'm done here. Until next time, or at least until the next piece of news comes out. See ya!